Hello everyone, welcome to DNSQL. My name is Dinesh Priyankara, Data Platform MVP and IT Consultant. Let's talk about OneLake. If you have watched my first video on Microsoft Fabric, then you know that Microsoft Fabric is for implementing data solution. And with that video, I discussed the way we have been implementing data solution starting from something like SQL Server and then with Azure like HD Insight, Databricks and Synapse. And then we talk about the challenges we experience with the implementation we have been doing and how Microsoft Fabric support us for handling these challenges. With this video, let's explore OneLake. So let's try to understand the usage of OneLake and how it is going to be a part of Microsoft Fabric. And then let's talk about a couple of key concepts related to OneLake, things like shortcuts, one copy, one security. And let's see how we can access OneLake using something like Power BI, which is available within the Microsoft Fabric platform. And let's see how we can access OneLake using something outside the Microsoft Fabric, something like Synapse and Databricks. This is what I have planned for this video. So let me take you through a set of slides that explain what is OneLake and the key concepts of OneLake. So after that, I'll do a demo. Let me take you through Microsoft Fabric, and then I'll be creating a set of lakehouses and uploading files. And let's see how we can access these lakehouses or the OneLake using OneLake Explorer. And let's explore shortcuts. And finally, let's see how we can access files in OneLake using Power BI, Synapse, and Databricks. So let's try to understand OneLake. Everyone is familiar with data lake. So simply, OneLake is a data lake for Microsoft Fabric. So we have been, if you really think about the modern data solutions we have been implementing using something like Synapse, we always create a data lake. In most cases, we'll be having multiple data lake accounts in order to handle various departments, various software solutions, or various business processes. So you'll be definitely seeing multiple data lake accounts. So when you maintain multiple data lake accounts, you'll be experiencing set of challenges, maintaining it, security, data governance. So when it's come to Microsoft Fabric, we are talking about one single data lake. We are not going to see multiple data lakes. We'll be maintaining one data lake, and that is what we refer as OneLake. And it's very similar to OneDrive. I believe that everyone is familiar with OneDrive, and that's what we have been using for maintaining our day-to-day documents like Word, Excel, and other set of documents. Not only that, we use OneDrive features for sharing the files with colleagues. Okay, so that's how we have been using OneDrive. And you can consider, or you can think OneLake as OneDrive for data. And you don't need to specifically create it. Whenever you form or start with Fabric tenant, your OneLake is getting automatically configured for you. You don't need to worry about creating it or infrastructure related to it. You will be simply seeing OneLake once the Microsoft Fabric tenant is configured. And the main thing is, it is going to be the foundation for almost all your Fabric data services. Let's see more. So what is OneLake? So OneLake is the data lake that will be created as a part of your Microsoft Fabric account. And it is for the entire organization, all right? And it's going to be the foundation for almost all Fabric data services. Since this is getting created at the tenant level, tenant admin can simply manage OneLake. If someone wants to access OneLake, he can grant permission by making these business users as member of relevant roles. All right. Now, how I'm going to place files into OneLake? I can't just place files into OneLake. I need to have sections. Now, if you remember the way we have been maintaining data lakes, we always had containers, right? Or the file systems. So we create file system within data lake account, and then we maintain folders, subfolders, and the files within these containers or the file system. So the concept is same. When you have the OneLake, you have to create containers or the file system. But with OneLake, we call them as workspaces. All right. So you can create workspaces as you want. Generally, we'll be creating workspaces based on your organization hierarchy, or you might be creating workspaces based on your business processes, right? It's completely up to you. Now, when it's come to data lake, we used to have sections like row section, curated, enrich, sales, marketing. Likewise, we used to maintain sections like that. But I don't think you should create a workspace for raw, workspace for curated. You can have all these things within the workspace, but when you create workspaces, always think about things like organization hierarchy or the business process. Okay, that would be the best way of creating workspaces. So when you create a workspace, you need to make sure that capacity is getting attached to workspace. If you have worked with Power BI, specifically Power BI Premium, then you know what is a capacity. So when it's come to OneLake workspaces, it needs a capacity. Now, when you have the Microsoft Fabric trial account, generally your My Workspace is getting configured automatically for OneLake. So you don't need to specifically attach a capacity, but that's purely for the trial, right? But when you create workspaces in your production environment, you need to make sure you create a capacity and then attach that capacity to the workspace. And this is always belong to one of the regions. All right, that's how workspace is getting created. Now, remember, you're not going to see a build for OneLake. You will be seeing builds for the workspaces. So Microsoft will be charging you for workspaces, not for the OneLake. And when it's come to security, you'll be maintaining access policies within workspaces. So let's say you have created a workspace for a specific department. So that department owner can simply handle the permission for this workspace. Of course, tenant admin can handle as well, but basically it will be the responsibility of the department owner. And all your data artifacts will be created within the workspace. So you'll be seeing things like lakehouses, warehouses, and if you take one of these data artifacts, let's say Lakehouse, you'll be maintaining folders, subfolders, and the files within it. So this is how you maintain OneLake and workspaces, and you can create multiple workspaces within OneLake. There are a couple of key concepts related to OneLake. So let's try to understand these important things. So let's say we have OneLake account and we have multiple workspaces. In this case, we have workspace A and B. And workspace A has Lakehouse A and B with folders and files. And workspace B has Lakehouse C with folders and files. All right. Now, let's talk about shortcuts. So shortcuts allows you to simply share data between, for example, lakehouses or workspaces without moving from one location to another location. Now, think like this. I'm in Lakehouse A and you are the owner of Lakehouse B. All right. And you want to perform some experiments, but for that experiment, you need some data from my Lakehouse. So generally what we do is we give a copy of the data. So you'll be taking copy from my Lakehouse and then you'll be continuing with your experiment. So everything works fine, but it creates a set of issues. One of the key issues we have seen is now that data set belonged to me. I was the owner. Now you have a copy of my data set and that data set is basically belong to you. So you can simply control that data set. I have no control on it. So likewise, it introduces a set of issues. But if you really use shortcuts given with OneLake, you can minimize most of the issues we have experienced before, right? Now, let's say I'm in Lakehouse A and you are in Lakehouse B. I want to access some of the files in Lakehouse B, all right? I can simply create a shortcut in Lakehouse A for data in Lakehouse B, right? Once the shortcut is created, it will be appeared as just like a normal folder, and all the things I do with the Lakehouse, I can simply do with my own data, which are in my folders, and the data in the shared folders as well, because it's just a reference. Remember, data is not getting moved from Lakehouse B to Lakehouse A, but when I open Lakehouse A, I'll be seeing data in my folders as well as data in Lakehouse B. Okay, so it is just a reference. And this is within a workspace. Let's say we want to get some data from Lakehouse C. So rather than moving data from Lakehouse C to Lakehouse A, I can simply create a shortcut again. So this shortcut is for workspace B, Lakehouse C, not within the same workspace. All right. Now, the good thing with shortcuts is it is not going to be limited to OneLake. We always maintain data lakes. Now, let's say you have been maintaining multiple data lake accounts and you started working with Microsoft Fabric. You can simply refer your existing data lake accounts in your workspaces. You can create shortcuts. For example, I can create a shortcut for Azure Data Lake Store in my Lakehouse C, right? So once it is created, data in the data lake will be appeared as a part of Lakehouse C data. Okay. Currently, we don't see connectors for all type of data stores, right? So this is available for Azure Data Lake Store and Amazon S3 buckets. So I can create a shortcut for Amazon S3 bucket as well. Okay. And another thing you should remember is these reference or the shortcuts can be referenced again by another Lakehouse. Now, for example, as you see, the green color one in the Lakehouse C is actually reference for Azure Data Lake Store. And that can be referenced again by Lakehouse B. So when someone, let's say I have permission for Lakehouse B and I'm going through Lakehouse B folders, I'll be seeing a folder which is related to Lakehouse C, but actually it is related to Azure Data Lake account. Okay, so this is how shortcuts work. Next is open access. That is also one of the key concepts related to OneLake. So open access is all about the way we access files in OneLake. All right. If you remember the way we have been accessing files in Data Lake, so we basically use Data Lake Gen 2 APIs or SDKs. If I have to programmatically access files in Data Lake, I'll be using SDKs. So OneLake allows us to simply use the same technique. You don't need to do anything. Let's say one of your applications, it has been accessing one of your Data Lake accounts through Gen 2 APIs. You can simply change it to OneLake and you don't need to change the code. Okay, you can simply continue with Gen 2 APIs and SDKs for accessing OneLake files. Next concept is one copy. This is all about maintaining a single copy for all the processes. Now, if you think about the way we have been implementing things with Synapse, we have to maintain a separate dataset for dedicated SQL pool. That's for the data warehousing. We might have to maintain the same dataset, but in a different container, let's say the data lake, for some other purposes, for a different application. All right. So it's not going to be a single copy. We have to maintain duplicates. But when it comes to OneLake, since its output is always based on, or output is always open data lake format, you can simply open the same copy for multiple processes. So whether you try to access through TSQL or KQL or through some Spark codes, using notebooks or Power BI reports or your own application, all the things can be simply referred to the data set you have. You don't need to create duplicates. You don't need to maintain multiple formats of the same data. So OneLake simplifies the process, right? Any application, any engine, any person can simply use multiple techniques for accessing the same data set. That's what we refer as one copy. The last part is security. So I explained that when it's come to workspaces, it allows you to manage security at the workspaces. So you can define your own admin to the workspace. That admin can simply handle the security within the workspace. In addition to that, you can actually use the compute environment or the analytical engine for implementing security, right? So when it comes to security, you can define security at the workspace level or the compute level. Now, for example, let's say you have a data warehouse created and you want to make sure that user one can simply access data through the data warehouse. So you configure the security at the data warehouse level. Or else if you want to make sure that someone can simply directly access the Lakehouse, then you can configure the security at the workspace level. So it's completely up to you. Based on the business requirement, you'll be configuring security at the workspace level or the compute level. Now it is time to go through all of these things. So let me open my Microsoft Fabric account and show you the way of creating the Lakehouse, uploading files, going through OneLake, and then creating shortcuts, and finally accessing all these files using Power BI, Synapse, and Databricks. I have opened my powerbi.com and you see my workspace and you can see the premium icon. So which means my workspace is configured with Fabric trial. Okay. If I have another workspace which is created for Fabric, which means it needs a capacity, then I can use that as well. So but in my case, I'm using the Fabric trial. So my workspace is automatically configured for Fabric. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a Lakehouse. So let me click on new. I don't see the Lakehouse menu item here. Let me click on show all. Then I'll be seeing Fabric items. So basically these preview items are Fabric items. So I'm going to click on Lakehouse. I'll be prompted for Lakehouse name. I'm entering this as Lakehouse 01. So basically the Lakehouse is created within the OneLake. So the folders like tables, files are in my workspace, but all these things are in my OneLake. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a couple of folders in files folder. So let me select new folder and let me call this as customer. Done. And I'm going to create another folder. Let's say product. Done. And let me create another folder. And I'm going to name this as sales. All right. So I have created 3 folders: customer, product, and sales. And I can simply place some files into all these folders, but let me place one file to customer folder. So I can click on this and then I can click on this ellipsis button. When I click on it, I see the menu and I can see upload and upload files. I'm going to click on it. So it's very simple. I click on it and it allows me to browse my machine. So I'm going to use this folder and it has a file called customer. I'm going to select it and click on open, and then finally I can click on upload. So this is how you upload files into Lakehouse. Done. And I can use OneLake Explorer for accessing my accounts and then add files, remove files, make some changes to file. All these things are possible. Let's have a look on OneLake later. I'm going to create another Lakehouse. Then we can use these 2 Lakehouses for checking how shortcuts work. Okay, so let me go back to my workspace. I can see the items that have been created for my Lakehouse. So this is my Lakehouse, and you can see SQL endpoint has been created for Lakehouse. Let's explore these things later, not with this video. I'm going to click on new again and then show all. I'm going to say Lakehouse 02. All right, I'm going to create one folder for this. Let me say sales territories. Done. And we can upload some files. I'm going to click on ellipsis button, upload files. I'm going to take a file from the same location. File is selected. I'm clicking upload. Done. All right. So if I click on this, I can see the file. Now let's see how we can create a shortcut in Lakehouse 1, referring sales territory in Lakehouse 2. So I'm going back to Lakehouse 1. I'm going to click on files and then click on new shortcut. As you see, we have 3 types of connectors: OneLake, Data Lake, and MSN3. Right? So I'm going to select OneLake. I'll be seeing all the Lakehouses in OneLake, right? But it doesn't mean that I'll be able to create shortcuts against all the Lakehouses or all the folders. I need to make sure that I have permission. But in this case, I'm the owner of all of these things, so I'll be able to do it. So I'm going to select Lakehouse 2 and then I'm going to click on next. I can see tables and files. Let me expand files. I can see sales territory. So I'm going to select the folder and then click on create. All right. So I'm in Lakehouse 1. I can see sales territory folder, but you can see the icon is different. If I click on this, I'm going to see the files in sales territory. So remember, this file is actually exists in Lakehouse 2, not in the Lakehouse 1, but shortcut allows us to refer folders in other Lakehouses. All right. Now let me go back to Lakehouse 2. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a shortcut, not for something in my OneLake. Let's refer something like Azure Data Lake. Let me first create a folder for external data. So I'm going to create a folder called external data. It's up to you. You can create a folder or you can simply add it to the root. But I'm going to create a folder called external data, and then I'm going to create a shortcut in external data. So let me select new shortcut. So this time I'm going to select Data Lake account. I should see a window. So this is the window I have to use. Now we need a couple of things. We need the URL from the Data Lake account. As you see, it says the Data Lake name and the dfs.codoswindows.net/the file system, right? So that's a URL you need. So we need to open the environment and get it. All right, and we have to select one of the account authentication kind. So you can see organizational account key, shared access signature, service principal. So all these things can be used for creating the shortcut for data lake account. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the account key. But before that, let me open my Azure and get all the information from the data lake account. All right, I'm going to open my Azure, one of the resource groups, and this has multiple storage accounts. So let me take this storage account. Let me click on it, and I need to get the URL. So basically it is available as an endpoint. So this is the endpoint menu. I'm going to click on it. And if I scroll down, I should be able to see something called primary endpoint data lake storage. So the one with DFS core Windows net, that's what I have to copy. So I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going back to my Power BI tab, and I'm going to set this URL. I need one more thing, my file system. I'm going back to storage account, containers. I'm going to copy this name and paste. Right, I can add the connection name. So I'm going to say the storage and the AdventureWorks. So let me set it like this. And the account key, I need to go back and get the account key. Let me click on account keys, and I'm going to click on show on this. I'm going to copy the account key, copy it, go back and paste. Let me click on next. It needs a shortcut name. I'm going to call this as AdventureWorks file. I'm going to click on create. Right, shortcut is created. So if I click on this, I should see the files in my file system. So I can see a folder called DW files. If I go into it, I can see files. Okay, so these files are not in OneLake. These files are in my data lake account, but files can be seen, and I can simply use these files for all type of experiments I have planned with my Fabric account. All right, let me show you another thing related to shortcuts. I'm going back to Lakehouse 1. Now, can I create a shortcut for Lakehouse 2 AdventureWorks files, which is created based on data lake account? Yes, it is possible. So I'm going to click on files and then new shortcut, and I'm going to select OneLake, and I'll be selecting Lakehouse 2. Click on next, expand files, external data, and I'm going to select AdventureWorks folder or the share. Let me click on create. All done. Okay, so this is how you create lake houses in OneLake, and then create shortcuts for locations in your OneLake, or data stores, something like data lake account and S3. Can I see all the things we just created using OneLake Explorer? Yes, it is possible, but remember, OneLake Explorer also in preview, so it might not work as you expected. But let me open OneLake Explorer I have installed, and let's see whether we can see these folders and files. All right, so I have opened OneLake Explorer. I can see two folders, Fabric Workspace and My Workspace. I'm going to double click on My Workspace. If I have multiple workspaces, I'll be seeing all the things, but I'm in My Workspace. I can see two lake houses I created, Lakehouse 1 and 2. If I go into Lakehouse 1, I should be able to see all my folders. Let me go into files. So I can see the folders like AdventureWorks, customer, product, and sales. If I go into AdventureWorks, which is the shortcut, I should be able to see some files there. Okay, so the DW files, that's the folder in data lake. And if I go into this, I can see my data lake files as well. So if I want to take a copy of these files, I can simply take it. This is how you use OneLake Explorer. But remember, this is a tool which is still in preview. Now let's see the way of accessing these files using something like Synapse and the Databricks. Okay, I have already created Synapse Workspace. We don't need to create a new one. Let me go into Synapse. I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to open Synapse Studio. All right, let me open the notebook I have already created. Let me click on develop. Okay, so it's a very simple code. First thing what I have done here is I have declared a variable called OneLake path, and I have added a value. It's basically the URL, but you can see the ABFSS. So how this URL has been formed. This is your OneLake ID, okay, and this is your workspace ID. All right. So how can I find these values? Let me go back to my Lakehouse. Now let's say I want to access my customer file. So I can go to my customer folder and then I can click on this ellipsis button of the customer CSV file and click on properties. If I go into the properties, I can see the URL and I can see the ABFS path as well. So this is what I have copied. Let me copy it again. Okay, I can click on this icon and copy, and let me go to the notebook. Now if I paste it, you can see this is my the OneLake, right? And this is my workspace. So that's what I have copied here. I have executed this one. So let me clear the output and then start executing it. So I'm going to copy this value. Let me take the whole thing up to files. And then I'm going to place it here. Right, done. Let me execute this code. Path is set. Okay, and the second cell, basically I'm trying to create a schema for my customer file, and it is just a Spark code, spark.read. The final ID user load. Okay, so with the load, I have given the same path. Only thing is I have added the folder name and the file name. And at the end, I'm trying to see the first 10 records using display command. I need to make sure that I use the same path. And now let me execute and see. All right, so it worked. So as you see, it's very simple. You don't need to write new set of codes. Simply you can continue with the codes you have been writing against something like Data Lake. All right, all you need is permission. In this case, I have permission for accessing OneLake, right? That's why I was able to execute this code. But basically, this is how you refer files in OneLake with an environment like Synapse. All right, can I write things back to OneLake? Yes, that is also possible, right? Let me show you that part as well. See this code. I'm creating another data frame. All I do is get the country field from the data frame and get the count, basically group by country and the number of records. Let me execute this code and see the output. So you'll be seeing the list of countries with the count. All right. So if I want to write this back to my OneLake, okay, so I can simply use the write method of the data frame, right? This is also something we have been using with Spark codes. So I need to make sure that I'm adding the header and the mode is override if it is already exists, and simply I'm using the OneLake path I configured with the first cell. And I prefer to have summary folder and the customer count. So what I can do is I can create the summary folder in my OneLake. Let me go back and let me create a folder called summary. Done. And let's execute this code and see. Executed. Let me go back to Power BI and click on summary. I don't see it. I'm going to click on refresh. All right, file has been created. All right, I can go into customer count and I can see the CSV file. So I should see this as a CSV file. All right, so this is how outputs are getting created in OneLake. I can do the same with Databricks. Let me show you the code. It's the same code, no difference. But when you create a Databricks account, you need to make sure that it is getting created as the premier account, not the standard account. Okay, so if I go into Databricks, I'm going to click on launch workspace. So you can see the pricing tier is premium, okay, not the standard, because in order to access OneLake, you need to make sure that when you create the workspace, you have to create it as the premium workspace. And in Databricks, I have created the cluster. Again, another thing you have to remember when you create the cluster for accessing OneLake. Let me open the cluster and show you. So this is the cluster I have created. And you can see in advanced option, I have selected this checkbox, enable credential pass-through for user level data access. So this is something you have to remember when you configure Databricks environment for accessing OneLake premium workspace. And when you create the cluster, you need to make sure that you enable credential pass-through. Okay, then only Databricks can simply communicate with OneLake and see the files. So the notebook is same. I'm not going to execute it, but let me show you the code. It is the same code. You should be able to see the output with my previous execution. Okay, so as you see, it is the same code, OneLake path variable, and then I load the customer data to a data frame, and I display it group by country, and then I'm writing it back. So the code works, okay, the same thing. All right, so this is how you access OneLake files using Synapse and Databricks. Let me do one more demo. How can I access these files using something like Power BI? So if I'm going to use Power BI desktop, I can simply access these files using the same URL. Okay, but in that case, I have to use not the ABFSS, HTTPS, right? Let me go back to this. Let me click on customer. You get the properties. This is the URL I have to use for accessing the customer data. For example, I can copy it. Let me open my let me open my Power BI desktop. And let me click on get data. So let's see how we can refer the customer file in OneLake. I'm going to select Azure, and I'm going to use Data Lake Storage Gen 2 connector. Okay, I'm going to click on connect, and I'm going to paste the URL. So remember, this is not the ABFSS, this is HTTPS. Right, I'm going to select the file system, click on OK. I can see the content. I'm going to click on transform and data. Right, I'm going to click on the binary. I should see the content now. Right, so all good. So I'm going to click on close and apply. Okay, I can see my columns, but I don't have headers. But this is the data set I see. So I can simply create visuals using these data sets. So this is one of the ways of accessing OneLake through Power BI. Additionally, you can use the same techniques you have used with Power BI, for example, direct query, import. All these things work with the Lakehouse or the warehouse data sets. In addition to that, we have something called direct lake. Okay, it's another connection type that can be used, but unfortunately, I have no way of showing you the way of getting a data set created and then use something like direct lake for accessing that data set and create reports, dashboard using Power BI. The reason is direct lake is currently supported only with Power BI Premium P and Microsoft Fabric F SKUs. Okay, so if you use something like Power BI Pro or Premium per user, you will not be able to use direct lake. Okay, so it's something like this. When you go to my workspace and you go to new and then you select data set, you'll be prompted for the name. You can simply use the tables you have created. Now, if I go to my Lakehouse, I can access these tables. So I can simply say, okay, I want to use these tables as a part of my data set and then complete the data set creation. So once the data set is created, I can use direct lake for accessing the data set, for forming the model and create reports and dashboard. But remember, it is not available with Power BI desktop. That facility is available with the Power BI web service only. So these are the techniques you can use for connecting with OneLake for Power BI models, reports, and dashboard. All right, demo is done. I hope you learn about OneLake. So if you have any question, you can simply add it to the comment section. I'll try my best to respond immediately. So let's see more on Microsoft Fabric with the next set of videos. Thanks for watching.